Welcome to the Vehicle Logbook project. The design pattern for this project is very similar to the previous project. The classes are slightly more sophisticated. Like the previous project, we have a helper class, the Vehicle Logbook helper class. We have a capture class, the Vehicle Logbook capture class. We have a POJO, the Vehicle Logbook POJO, and the CSV utilities and file utilities, we will be using the same files. And then the main class is the Vehicle Logbook class. The software for this project is available in GitHub for you to download. Pause the video, copy this URL, open it in your browser, and this is what you'll get. All the projects are available in here, as well as the lessons. So here's the code for the lessons, the Java lessons, and here's the code for the project. So if you go into the Vehicle Logbook folder here, you will find all these classes here. And if you want, you can go here and you can download all the projects. If you do that and you are following the lessons regularly, then that will make it easier for us. Now that you have the source code, all I need to do is to compile my classes, also bring them up so that I can explain the differences. So let's do that with Notepad. I'll start with the POJO. This is your code. You're welcome to use it, and you are welcome to modify it to your own requirements. The situation was I needed to produce a logbook in the form of an Excel file which I could send to the taxman for tax purposes. And these were the fields that I put in my spreadsheet. I have a date. Like the previous project, I made it a string, so it's a free-form date, which means we don't have to worry whether you're using American format or British format or ISO format, international ISO format, like the Europeans would use. You can just type the date as free form. I added a customer so that if I was traveling to a customer, I would populate it, and the is private field, I would set that as false. The trip start and trip end fields, you can read that off your vehicle's odometer when you start and when you end. We calculate the distance for you. If you purchase fuel while traveling to a customer, then you can enter a fuel cost here and the oil cost and the garage cost. Now, with me, based on the percentage of the usage of my vehicle for business trips to private trips, I get that percentage of fuel, oil, and garaging costs, as well as toll, back from the taxman. So, and here I put a comment where the toll was paid so that there could be no disputes from the taxman. So those were the fields, and like the previous project, I have a make header method which creates the column names, and I have a make body method which creates the columns for the spreadsheet. And then this is a normal POJO, so it will have all the getter and all the setter methods. Now let's have a look at the capture class. As you can see, this class is relying on the strings utilities class to do all the work. So if I need a string, I use the getString from user. Here I give the user the message which will be displayed to the user as a parameter to this method, and I also give the user the error message that will be displayed if there was an error capturing this field. And then I also have a yes/no method which will allow the user to type a Y or a N or the word yes or the word no, and it's case insensitive. So the user can type it in any case. I convert that code to uppercase and I take the first letter. So I'm looking for a Y or I'm looking for a N. And then this method returns a boolean true or false, or throws an error with the this is the error message, which would be displayed to the user. I also added a method to get integer from the user. So this is an int. It will return a value which I store in this trip start variable, which is an int. And likewise, I do the same to get the trip end. And then I have another method which I created called the get double from user. And what this method will do is similar to the previous. It'll prompt the user to enter the fuel cost, and it will validate that, and if it passes successfully, we will get back a double. If it fails, we throw an exception. We display this to the user as the error. So after running this code block here, we then have populated all the fields in the Pojo. And then all I needed to do here was to calculate the distance from the difference between the trip end and the trip start readings of the odometer. And then I could use the Pojo's setters, all the setter methods. So I could call all the setter methods in here in this code block. I set the values to the Pojo, and then this method is defined to return a Pojo. Right in the front, I called the default constructor of the vehicle logbook Pojo so that I could get the Pojo instance object, and then I use that here and call all the setters to store the values, and now I can return a fully populated Pojo, vehicle logbook Pojo. We want to look at the string utilities clause. So here I have a method where I pass it a string, and it tests the string to see if the string is a null or if the length of the string is smaller than 1. In other words, it's an empty string. And in that case, it will return a true. The logical operator will be is empty equals true. That's what is empty will be set. Notice that I've said is empty equals, and then here I'm doing what you would put inside a if statement. So Java allows you to do that. So I'm doing two tests. The first test, I'm checking to see is the text null. So I say if null equals text. So if the text is null, then this is true. So then it will set it as true. Or this is the or operator, text.length is smaller than 1. In other words, if the length of the string is 0, so it's an empty string. And in both cases, then I return is empty as true. Otherwise, I return it as false. The first method that we looked in the Pojo was where we called the yes-no method, and we were wanting to determine if the trip was a business trip or not. So what we are doing here, I am calling the getString from user. I'm displaying the message and the error. So let's go and have a look at that. That's the last method, getString from user. And here, this is code we've already played with before. So what we did here is we used the reader.readLine. We first did a system out println where we displayed the message, and then we did a reader readLine. So whatever the user typed, that's what we returned from this method. And you will see this method gets called by all the other methods in here. So here I'm calling it. In the getInt from user, here I'm calling it as well. In the getLong, there I'm also calling it. And in the getDouble, here I'm also calling it. So I'm returning from this method whatever the user typed. And I'm checking to see, notice that the code is inside a try-catch block. So if anything goes wrong in this method, I will be throwing exceptions and I will be catching them here. And when I catch an exception, I will be throwing a new exception where I pass it the error message. That error message is what we used in the capture class, the vehicle logbook capture class. And the same code here for getting int from user. You can see I'm a lazy programmer, and if I have code that works, I just copy and paste it and make changes. So the behavior of this is the same as this. The only difference is that this returns an int, this returns a long, this returns a double. And that's all I needed from this class. Now we want to look at the helper class. This class will be a bit more sophisticated. Let's have a look at the vehicle logbook helper class. In this class, we don't have a main method. Like the other capture classes, we have a public static void capture method. We display a title on the screen here that we are adding an entry to the logbook. Then we call the logbook capture class the capture method of the logbook capture class. And we saw that that method returns us a POJO. So we store that POJO in this variable POJO here. And then we call the save logbook method. We pass it this POJO. If, however, while trying to capture the logbook, the user had typed enter instead of a numeric value or an invalid numeric value and an exception was thrown, we will be able to now here display to the user that a message. So I could put a colon here to just separate this out, and I could put the get message here. Because in the capture class we are throwing an exception where we are describing what the error is, this would actually display what the error was. And here we would say an error occurred while capturing data, and we would see what the error was. In the happy case, we got a valid POJO back. We called here. Now here we did validation on the POJO. We checked to see if the POJO was not null. We've actually seen this code before, so that was how we validated that. And then this, I call the exists method from the file utilities, and I passed it the file name. This is very similar to the previous project. So in the previous project, we had the name of the log file or the name of the CSV file and the version number. So if you make changes to the code, I've made a change to the code, then you can change that there as well. So it will now create a new CSV file. I'm going to leave it as I already have been playing and have data there. So that's it. And then the rest of the code, we've already seen it. Just to recap, we are checking if this file exists. And if it exists, that means we want to append. If it doesn't exist, then we want to write the CSV. We want to write a new CSV file. So that's what we are doing with the CSV utilities. And then we are passing either the body or the header and the body, as well as the file name. That's it for the helper class. And then the last class we want to see is where we call the helper class. And like with the previous project, there's only one line, vehicle logbook helper.capture. And just to recap, this was declared as a static method, and because it was declared as a static method, we did not have to instantiate the class. So we could just say the class name with the uppercase first letter. In other words, this is the exact class name, dot, and then the static method. That's all there is to this project. Now, I made a change, so I need to compile, and then after that we will run it. So let's start compiling these in the reverse order of arrival. That compiled. Now let's compile the next one. That compiled. So we've done the string utilities. Now let's do the helper class. There was an error. Get message should be an uppercase M. You see, this is the danger when you start modifying the code. So let's go back and fix the helper class. Remember, in Java, every word starts with an uppercase except for the first word in the method. So the first word, get, starts with a lowercase, and all the other words start with an uppercase. I've done that. I must close, and now we can compile it again. So you see, we are not robots, we are humans. Having compiled that class, that was the helper. Now right, we've compiled that. Let's compile the helper because it uses the capture. And this is a good sign. We have all the code compiled. Now we can run it. Enter the date, July 4. I like American dates. Is this a private trip? Yes. The customer. Jack the Ripper. We start with 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. And we end with 1, 2, 3, 5, 6, 7. We didn't buy fuel, so that's 0. Oil 0. Garage cost 0. We paid toll to cross the London Bridge. Of course, some British person is going to laugh at me because there's no toll, but I'm just trying to. There's going to be a problem with this. Let me. There may be a problem with this, but let's see. I could edit it in the spreadsheet. And now let's have a look and see what happened. Star.class. So today is September the 23rd, just so that you can believe me, and the time here is 5 p.m. So here you can see the time is 1700 hours. So these are all compiled now. And and here is the logbook, the CSV file. It was also created now. So let's go and open it. Cat. This is the benefit of using Linux inside Windows. So here I've added a different record, a new record at the end. And you see, as I said, I was editing London Bridge. I expected that to happen, but that's fine. What you can do is you can maybe do a Control-C to exit the program and run it again. But this is a very simple program. And now let's open the file inside Windows. And let's see what happens. Excel opens it. It stores all the keystrokes. So there were backspaces, and that's what you saw there. It actually reproduced everything I typed on the keyboard up until I hit the enter button. So that worked. This was the practical for this lesson. Thank you very much. Please click the like button and subscribe to this channel to help this channel grow. And also have a look in the comments and click on the show more link so that you can see what other videos we have in this series of training courses. Thank you for that.